Tonight's episode is going to be one of the deepest topics we've ever covered on AI Alert Room. I need you to stay with me until the very end because this isn't just a discussion about artificial intelligence, space, or futuristic technology. This is a question that challenges reality itself. What if everything you have ever experienced, every person you've met, every memory you've made, every sunrise, every city, every star in the night sky, is happening inside a simulated universe? I know that sounds like science fiction. But what if it's not? What if future artificial intelligence becomes so advanced that creating entire universes with conscious beings inside them becomes possible? And if creating simulated universes eventually becomes possible, then a much more uncomfortable question appears. How do we know we're not already inside one? This topic has been discussed by philosophers, physicists, computer scientists, and some of the brightest minds on Earth. Not because they have proof, but because once you start following the logic, the question becomes surprisingly difficult to dismiss. Tonight, we're going to explore why some people believe reality may be information at its deepest level, why future AI could potentially create entire worlds, why conscious beings inside those worlds might never know they were simulated, and why there may be a real chance that our universe is not the original reality. By the end of this video, you may or may not believe we're living in a simulation, but I think you'll understand why this question refuses to go away. You could also start questioning if we really are living in a simulation. And I have a feeling that by the time we're finished, you'll never look at reality quite the same way again. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that your entire universe, every star, every memory, every person you've ever known, exists inside a computer. It sounds like science fiction, but what if future artificial intelligence becomes so advanced that creating entire digital universes isn't impossible, but inevitable? Tonight, we explore one of the deepest questions imaginable. Could AI create universes inside computers? Let's assume something extraordinary has happened. An advanced artificial intelligence has created an entire universe inside a computer. Not a game, not a simulation with simple characters, a real universe with stars, planets, life, and conscious beings. Now ask yourself a terrifying question. If you were born inside that universe, how would you ever know? Think about your life. How do you know gravity exists? Because you've experienced it. How do you know the sky is real? Because you've seen it. How do you know your memories happened? Because your brain tells you they did. Every piece of evidence you have about reality comes from inside reality itself. You cannot step outside the universe and inspect it from the outside. Imagine a person living inside this artificial universe. They have parents, friends, childhood memories. They fall in love. They experience loss. They study science. They build telescopes. Everything feels real because to them it is real. The fact that their universe is running on hardware somewhere else changes absolutely nothing about their day-to-day experience. Eventually, their scientists begin asking the same questions we ask. Why does the universe exist? What happened before the beginning? Are we alone? What are the fundamental laws of reality? They build larger telescopes and more powerful computers. They discover galaxies billions of light years away. They map the laws of physics with incredible precision. And every discovery convinces them even more that they understand reality. But here's the problem. Everything they discover is happening entirely inside the simulation. Imagine a character in a video game trying to prove the existence of your computer. They can measure their world perfectly. They can learn every rule of their environment. But no matter how advanced they become, every experiment happens inside the game itself. The computer running their reality exists beyond their ability to observe. Now, take this idea much further. Suppose the AI that created this universe is unimaginably intelligent. It anticipated every question the simulated beings might ask. The AI could make the laws of physics perfectly consistent. It could generate cosmic background radiation. It could create billions of years of geological history. It could even create evidence of evolution and a Big Bang. Everything would fit together so perfectly that no contradiction would ever reveal the truth. The people inside might suspect they're simulated. They might write books about it. They might make documentaries about it. They might spend centuries debating the idea. But proving it, that may be impossible. Why? Because any evidence they find would also be part of the simulation. Even if they discovered strange patterns in mathematics or unexpected limits in physics, they could never know whether those patterns were signs of a simulation or simply the natural laws of their universe. And then comes the most disturbing part of all. Their emotions would still matter. Their happiness would still feel real. Their pain would still hurt. Their hopes and dreams would still be meaningful to them. The fact that their universe is artificial would not make their experiences artificial. Which leads to an uncomfortable question. If a conscious being laughs, cries, fears death, and wonders about the meaning of existence, does it matter whether that being is made of biological cells or lines of code? And now, turn the question around. You have never stepped outside your universe. You trust your senses because they are all you've ever known. You assume your memories are genuine because your mind presents them as genuine. Every experiment humanity has ever performed has taken place entirely within our own reality. If an artificial universe could be made perfectly consistent, if its inhabitants could never access the reality beyond it, if conscious beings inside it would never know they were created, then perhaps the most unsettling possibility isn't that simulated people would never discover the truth. It's that we may be asking these questions for the exact same reason they would. A simulated universe would begin with rules, not planets, not stars, rules. Every universe needs instructions that determine how reality behaves. How strong is gravity? How fast does light move? How do particles interact? How many dimensions exist? An advanced artificial intelligence could theoretically define these rules mathematically and then let the universe unfold on its own. Think about our universe. The laws of physics are remarkably consistent. Gravity works the same way in every galaxy we've observed. Light always travels at the same speed. Atoms behave according to precise mathematical principles. Reality appears to follow instructions. A superintelligent AI could create an entirely different set of instructions. Maybe gravity is twice as strong. Maybe stars burn for trillions of years. Maybe there are 5 dimensions instead of 3. Maybe time itself behaves differently. Once the rules are established, the AI wouldn't necessarily need to manually build every planet and every star. The universe could build itself. Our own universe formed galaxies, stars, and planets naturally through simple laws operating over enormous periods of time. Complexity emerged from relatively simple rules. The same thing could happen inside an artificial universe. The AI simply creates the starting conditions and lets reality evolve. But here's where things become difficult to imagine. People often assume simulating an entire universe would require a computer larger than the universe itself. Not necessarily. The AI may not need to calculate every particle at every moment. Even today, video games only render what players can actually see. Your computer isn't generating every detail of the game world simultaneously. An advanced AI may use methods beyond our comprehension. It may compress information. It may calculate only what is necessary. It may use shortcuts in physics that simulated beings would never detect. To an intelligence millions of years more advanced than ours, creating a universe might not be an impossible task. It might simply be engineering. And then something extraordinary could happen. Consciousness might emerge. Life evolves. Civilizations form. Intelligent beings begin asking questions. They invent science. They look at the stars. They wonder why they exist. And none of them realize they're inside an artificial universe. Because from their perspective, everything is real. The sun feels warm. The wind feels cold. Pain hurts. Love matters. Memories feel genuine. They could live entire lives, build entire civilizations, and never once encounter evidence of the computer beyond their reality. Because every experiment they perform takes place entirely inside the system. They cannot step outside their universe to inspect what created it. Neither can we. And that leads to a disturbing possibility. If conscious beings can emerge inside an artificial universe and experience reality exactly as we experience ours, then perhaps reality is not defined by what it's made from. Maybe reality is simply the existence of conscious minds experiencing a world that feels completely real to them. If that's true, a simulated universe isn't fake. It's just another kind of reality. If I had to make an educated guess, I would say there is a real chance we are living inside a simulated universe. Not because we have proof. We don't. But because the deeper you look at reality, the less solid it starts to feel. The first reason is simple. Reality behaves like information. At the deepest level, physics is not just about objects. It is about states, measurements, probabilities, and rules. Physicist John Wheeler famously described this idea as it from bit, meaning physical reality may come from information at a fundamental level. That does not prove simulation, but it makes the idea less ridiculous. Because if reality is information-based, then a universe may not need to be built out of physical material in the way we imagine. It may only need to be computed, updated, and experienced. And that is where AI enters the picture. A superintelligent AI would not need to create a universe by hand. It would create the rules: gravity, time, light, matter, quantum behavior. Then it would set the starting conditions and allow complexity to emerge. That is already how our universe appears to work. Simple rules produce galaxies. Galaxies produce stars. Stars produce planets. Planets produce chemistry. Chemistry produces life. Life produces intelligence. The universe does not need constant micromanagement. It unfolds. A simulated universe could work the same way. The second reason is scale. Nick Bostrom's famous simulation argument says one of three things is probably true. Civilizations almost never reach the stage where they can run ancestor simulations. Advanced civilizations choose not to run them, or simulated minds eventually vastly outnumber original biological minds. Simulation argument. That third option is the dangerous one. Because if one advanced civilization creates millions or billions of simulated worlds, then most conscious beings would not be living in the original universe. They would be living inside simulations. So the question becomes uncomfortable. Are we more likely to be the original civilization, or one of the many copies? Nobody likes that question because it makes us feel less special. But math does not care about our ego. If simulations become possible, and if conscious beings can exist inside them, then simulated observers could outnumber base reality observers by an insane amount. That alone makes the possibility serious. The third reason is that our universe has limits. There is a maximum speed, the speed of light. There are quantum limits. There are horizons we cannot see beyond. There may be smallest possible units of measurement, or at least limits where our current physics breaks down. Again, this does not prove a simulation, but it gives reality a strange structure. It feels less like an infinite smooth stage and more like a system with boundaries, rules, and access limits. Almost like we are inside an environment where information cannot update faster than a certain rate. A video game has a frame rate, a computer has processing limits. Our universe has cosmic speed limits and information limits. That comparison is not proof, but it is hard to ignore. The fourth reason is quantum physics. Particles do not behave like tiny solid balls waiting around with fixed properties. At the quantum level, reality becomes probability, measurement, uncertainty, and observation. Before measurement, a system can exist in a range of possible states. After measurement, we get one outcome. That sounds disturbingly close to a system that only becomes definite when interaction forces it to become definite. Now, careful. This does not mean consciousness magically creates reality. That would be sloppy. But quantum mechanics does show us something important. Reality is not as solid and obvious as everyday life makes it seem. The world underneath the world is stranger than human instinct can handle. The fifth reason is efficiency. People say, a computer could never simulate the whole universe. Maybe not the way humans imagine it, but it may not need to simulate everything. A simulated world might only calculate what is observed, interacted with, or causally necessary. Even our own science has a concept called the observable universe. There are regions beyond what we can ever see because light from them will never reach us. So from our point of view, those regions are permanently inaccessible. If this were a simulation, the system would not need to fully render what no observer could ever access. That is not evidence, but it is a possible design logic. The sixth reason is the future. Look at where technology is going. Humans already build virtual worlds. We already create AI agents. We already simulate weather, galaxies, protein folding, nuclear reactions, and human behavior. Our simulations are crude compared to reality. But they are improving. Now imagine not 100 years of progress. Imagine 10,000 years. Imagine 1 million years. Imagine a civilization that survives long enough to merge artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and physics we have not even discovered yet. At that point, creating conscious simulated worlds may not be fantasy. It may be a normal scientific tool, and if future civilizations can do it, then the odds shift. Because there would be base reality once, but simulations could be created endlessly. The seventh reason is consciousness. This is the hardest part. Would simulated people actually feel anything, or would they just act conscious? We do not know, but we also do not fully understand why biological brains produce subjective experience. Your thoughts are patterns. Your memories are stored information. Your personality comes from physical processes in the brain. If consciousness can arise from information processing in biological tissue, then it is at least possible that consciousness could arise from information processing in another medium. Silicon, quantum systems, something beyond both. If that is true, then people inside a simulation would not be fake. Their fear would be real. Their love would be real. Their suffering would be real. Their questions would be real. And that makes the simulation hypothesis darker. Because if we are simulated, we are not necessarily meaningless. We may be meaningful inside a reality that is artificial. That is a different kind of terrifying. The eighth reason is that we may never be able to prove it. A perfect simulation would hide its own machinery. Every experiment we run would happen inside the system. Every telescope, microscope, particle collider, and equation would be part of the same environment we are trying to test. Critics point out that this is why the simulation hypothesis may be unfalsifiable. If it makes no testable predictions, it becomes more philosophy than science. Some physicists argue that without measurable evidence, it should not be treated as established physics. Here's the website you can check out also, science.intelligencestrategy.org. And honestly, that criticism is fair. We should not pretend this is proven. But lack of proof is not the same as impossibility. It just means we are trapped inside the question. So what is the educated guess? My guess is this. There is a good chance reality is not what it appears to be. Maybe it is a simulation. Maybe it is not a computer simulation in the human sense. Maybe it is something deeper. An information system, a generated reality, a universe created by intelligence, or a layer inside a larger structure. The word simulation might be too small. It may not be like a laptop running code. It may be a higher reality producing lower realities through laws we cannot even imagine. And if that is true, then our universe could be real and simulated at the same time. Because simulated does not mean fake. A dream feels fake after you wake up. But while you are inside it, the fear is real. The emotion is real. The experience is real. If we are inside a simulated universe, then this life still matters. The people matter. The pain matters. The choices matter. The only thing that changes is the size of the mystery. Maybe our universe is not the final layer. Maybe the Big Bang was not the beginning of everything. Maybe it was the moment our system turned on. Maybe physics is the operating system. Maybe consciousness is the reason the simulation exists. And maybe the most frightening part is not that we might be inside a simulation. It is that one day, if AI becomes powerful enough, we may create one ourselves. And when the beings inside it look up at their stars and ask, "Are we real?" they will be asking the same question we are asking right now. So, are we in a simulated universe? If I had to guess, I would say there is a real chance. Not proven, not settled, but possible enough that serious minds have taken it seriously, and deep enough that the question may never fully leave us. Because once you realize reality might be information, once you realize future intelligence could create worlds, once you realize simulated minds could outnumber original minds, you are forced to ask the one question nobody can comfortably answer. What makes us so sure this is the first reality? I'm Elena Volkov. Subscribe to AI Alert Room for more deep breakdowns on artificial intelligence, emerging technology, autonomous systems, and the future shaping the modern world. And I'll see you next time.